Okay, hello, this is Karen Ballingy. I am the Assistant Instructional Technology Specialist at Virginia Adult Learning Resource Center, and we are here in Richmond, Virginia. I'm here with Joanne Hebner, Elizabeth Severson-Irby, Heidi Silver-Paquilla, and Lynn McGregor, and this is the Family Literacy Under WIOA webinar. Before we get started, there are a few items I would like to bring to your attention. First off, this session is being recorded, so if you have staff who would like to review the webinar, it will be sent as requested. We have automatically muted your microphones. If you would like to speak, you may unmute yourself, but please be sure to mute yourself once you are done speaking. We encourage you to use the chat box to ask questions and make comments. It will be monitored throughout the webinar, and we will be creating a chat log digest that we'll have in a couple days. To find the chat box, hover over the bottom of your screen and you will see a chat icon. Just click on that. If you are participating as a group, please use the chat box to let us know the names of the staff participating with you. Also, as Heidi requested, please introduce yourself by program.
All right, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your interest in this topic. We're very pleased to have the opportunity to spend a morning talking about family literacy. Lynn, we're happy to have you at our conference this summer. It was a wonderful Friday morning inspiration as we kind of wrapped up. And you sent us on our way thinking about how to work with adults and make sure they are growing in their own community. You focused on service learning component. So that was great, and kind of time in Virginia to refocus on family literacy and re-engage our thinking about family literacy under WIOA funding. We know that not everyone on the webinar this morning has WIOA funding, so we'll try and be explicit when we're talking about those kinds of requirements. But most of all, I'm interested in carrying the interest that I've heard from others that, hey, I want to get started on family literacy. How do I do it? So I'm really happy to have you with us, and you bring a video from your whole team. So we have the whole center, National Center for Families Learning, with us this morning. So please introduce yourself to those who don't know you and the center.
Yes, so I'm Lynn McGregor with the National Center for Families Learning, and you'll be hearing a lot about that in the upcoming webinar. I come to my position at NCFL as a former elementary educator as well as an adult educator in the area of ESL, and have been engaged with family literacy for, gosh, about 14 years now. So I work here in Richmond, Virginia, with partners across the country, and look forward to sharing with you a little bit today about what the family literacy components look like, and then having some discussion about how you might implement family literacy.
Thank you. So Joanne, we turn it back to you.
We are going to share a video that Lynn has put together, and after that we will rejoin Lynn and Heidi for some Q&A. Hold on for just a second. I just want to make sure that when we are doing our share, we're sharing our sound. There we go. Mm-hmm.
Welcome to today's webinar on family literacy. We thank you for joining to learn more about how your adult education program might be expanded to include NCFL's two-generation approach. My name is Lynn McGregor, and I work with the National Center for Families Learning as a family literacy specialist, and I'm located here in Richmond, Virginia. Today's webinar is pre-recorded. However, it will be followed by a live roundtable session for questions and discussion. Today I'll share with you an overview of NCFL and its organizational history, as well as an explanation of our four-component family literacy model and how it works with WIOA and adult education. The mission of NCFL is to eradicate poverty through education solutions for families. We work to engage adults and children in a comprehensive, holistic way that supports greater impact across both generations. With our 30-year history, we are pioneers in the field of family literacy and leaders in two-generation education. Our staff has expertise in adult, child, and family literacy and learning. We have digital assets used around the world, including our sites such as Wonderopolis and the Learn to Earn Toolkit that support education outcomes for adults and children. The following video shares the organization's beginning and provides a sense of the work we're doing across the country.
From one generation to the next, it just keeps getting better.
Two-generation family literacy stretches across the globe, lifting up families to meet their potential and break the cycle of poverty.
Which one is this? Yep, good job.
It was a new concept to most people to bring parents and children together.
Family literacy and the four-component model developed by Sharon Darling traces its roots to an adult education class in the basement of a Louisville, Kentucky church.
I came back and opened the door, and there were 5 men in there. And he said, "This is your new teacher." They were so desperate to learn, and they wanted to read, and they talked about the painful experiences that they had every day, you know, by trying to hide the fact that they couldn't read. And so it became something that was very, very important to me.
After volunteering, next up for Sharon was running adult literacy programs across Kentucky and eventually all across the country. Then she came back to Kentucky and focused on Appalachia.
It is a cycle of failure which can reach down through generations. ABC's Bill Blakemore tonight on how to break it.
So that's when I started thinking about how could I get the adults and the children into a situation where they could learn together.
These parents are bringing not only their children to school, but themselves as well.
And so, family literacy was born.
They were 3- and 4-year-old children. They came with their parents. Their parents had a good adult education program, and right next door were their children, who were in a preschool program.
How many yellows in this one?
Then the crux of the program was when the parents actually came together with their young children.
Meantime, the William R. Keenan Jr. Charitable Trust asked Education Secretary Bill Bennett to point them to a new innovative education program. Bennett recommended a visit to Kentucky.
Here was one of the most rural areas that was one of the most difficult, and yet Sharon, through her ingenuity, was seeing that buses picked up the parents and the children. They were given breakfasts.
Well, can you believe we're back? I'm so glad you came with me. I started here, and because of the family literacy program, and because I got on the bus, and because I faced my fear and got an education, you guys start here. Your children will start here, and it just keeps improving.
All these living things depend on each other.
It's not about just educating a mother, it's about helping the parent get the skills, the confidence to move on with their lives, but the confidence that they can help their children be successful.
1, 2, 3. Put it go!
As momentum grew, the National Center for Family Literacy, NCFL, was founded in 1989.
There were so many similarities between what was going on with the families in Appalachia and what was going on in the families in the communities in Indian country.
The Bureau of Indian Education worked with NCFL to create Family and Child Education, or FACE.
With the FACE program, I learned parenting skills, goal seeking, what the program can offer me, how it can better me, how it could better my child.
The FACE program was really the most significant the Bureau has ever done. It's the longest lasting initiative in the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
It was magic when Toyota came into the picture.
At Toyota, we're really proud of a nearly 30-year relationship with NCFL. I think it's kind of unprecedented for a company and a nonprofit to have that long of a relationship.
They weren't, let's just write a check. They loaned us executives for a year to put in place management systems so that we could learn all of their problem-solving system and put that throughout our organization.
We like to partner with like-minded organizations like NCFL.
Are we going up or staying the same? Stay the same.
That really want to solve some of the root cause problems in education. In the end, what we've always hoped to achieve in our relationship with NCFL is just to give people the opportunity to succeed.
What they're doing is so extraordinary. They're coming back to school, they're teaching their children by example that education is the most important thing that can happen to them.
The next stop for what was then known as PACE, Parent and Child Education, was unlocking federal funding.
You know, family literacy is in every piece of legislation that has to do with parents or children in Congress.
Sharon Darling, former school teacher, is president of the National Center for Family Literacy, an organization that spans the nation and reaches thousands of families every single year.
30 years later, NCFL continues to be the voice of family literacy, sharing research, policy briefs, and success stories.
If somebody had told me that I would end up traveling around the country, speaking to large groups of people, doing this work night and day, and going to Congress, going to the White House, and I would have, I think, just gotten in a fetal position and stayed in the closet. You know, it was never my intention to do anything like this. I mean, my intention was to help people learn to read and to help families grow.
I am in awe of this wonderful woman. I would love to know how many people have learned to read as a result of Sharon's work.
Yes. Very good.
And even starting my own organization was, you know, that was really the Keenans.
What word do we have now?
Replying.
Yes, replying.
And all we did with Sharon, she had to plan everything. The money just gave her a little head start.
Their belief and their trust in me helped us propel something in the nation that has now served 15 million families across this country.
Please write the word put.
The impact continues to grow with on-site programs, citywide literacy coalitions, and digital classrooms such as Wonderopolis and the National Literacy Directory.
There's a magic formula that she put together. It's still there and it has to be kept going.
Today, NCFL has more than 100 partners across the U.S. They include school districts, Head Start programs, tribal schools, and community-based organizations. The purple states represent areas where we're doing federal work through the statewide family engagement centers in Arizona and Nebraska, where we are the lead, as well as in Kentucky, where we're a program partner, and states where we're exploring the use of SNAP ENT funding, such as Mississippi. You'll notice a star in Richmond, which represents our work with the Virginia Literacy Foundation, a 1991 grantee that continues to work with us today, as well as the Partnership for Families, which serves Northside Richmond. Note too that in Washington, D.C., we partner with BRIA, a family literacy charter school. Our work falls into three primary buckets. Through our work in the area of professional development, we provide training online and in person, as well as digital resources and research from years of study of the work of our model. Community development is a more recent focus as we look to activate local coalitions to leverage collective impact and inform policy and community initiatives. Currently, we have strong community development programs in Dallas and Western Michigan. Model programming has been at the heart of what we've done over the last 30 years, and this includes three basic tiers of programming, from the most intense, which is family literacy, which we'll talk more about today, to family learning, a lighter version that does not include adult education, and the lightest touch of family engagement work that involves things such as regular family events. Before we look at the family literacy components, it's important to see how they fit with WIOA. WIOA Title II looks at both adult skills needed for employment as well as those needed for parents to assume their role as their children's first and most important teachers. Together, these skills support the well-being of families and lead towards economic self-sufficiency. The approach we take with our two-generation work is holistic and provides needed support services, addressing families' individual needs, goals, and interests. Participating adults typically have increased persistence, and through programming, we work to address situational barriers such as childcare or transportation, but also look to help parents feel more comfortable in classrooms where there may be situational barriers at play. Our research shows that this approach improves outcomes for the entire family, and by leveraging resources across organizations in the community, we connect families more deeply to those communities. Here we see a breakdown of the family literacy model and its 4 components. We'll look at each of the components more closely in the following slides. In the family literacy model, adult education takes place for 4 hours or more per week. It's this component that makes this the most intense of our tiered programming. Through children's education, we typically are providing services in schools or Head Start programs. Parent and child together time can take place in the school or can be center-based for 2 hours or more per week and is a time to bring parents and children together in interactions. During parent time, parents come together as a cohort for active skill building. Through this, they also complete 2 family service learning projects, which are actually woven through each of the 4 components. Together, the 4 components require a minimum of 8 hours per week, although this can typically be as much as 10 or 12 hours per week, and programs are encouraged to last the length of a school year. Adult education in our model is diverse and dependent upon family needs. While traditionally this has included ESL or GED, it has become increasingly more workforce focused. Participating family literacy adults may attend the same or differing adult ed programs based on their needs. Family literacy brings together the adult education programs that already exist in communities with the children's education taking place in schools, preschools, Head Start programs, or even out-of-school time programs. Through family literacy programming, we look to increase outcomes in language development, kindergarten readiness, and reading proficiency. During parent time, a cohort of families comes together for 2 or more hours a week to increase their skills. Parent time is based on parents' interests and needs. Rather than being curriculum-based, the sessions are facilitated by a staff person who arranges guest speakers who are content experts on areas of interest. This might include financial literacy, health, and child development. In school-based settings, families might hear from principals, school social workers, or reading specialists to help them better understand the school climate and curriculum. Leveraging local experts serves to connect families to resources in a personal way, and through parent time, adults are able to build a network both inside and outside of the group. We'll share now a video where you can hear from providers and parents about their experience with parent time.
Parent time is a really important component of family learning. Parent time is a time when parents come together.
Parent time is a regularly scheduled time where parents come together and learn the skills they need to be their child's first and most important teacher. It's a laboratory, if you will, where parents learn skills, define what they are, and practice those skills that they can then use with their child at home, in the community, and in the classroom.
So in preparing for parent time, we really try to look for what questions the parents have been asking and also what we consider would be important for them to know.
La primera pregunta era de cuál era su actividad favorita. What was your favorite activity that you...
What's really important about this piece of our program is that it's the time where parents come together, set goals for themselves, for their children and their families, and then they hold themselves and their other classmates accountable for those goals.
College doesn't mean just a 4-year degree.
It could also be to get a certificate, a 2-yearly.
Some of the tools we give to parents in parent time are effective communication, the tools to be able to effectively communicate with their school administrators, teachers.
Science, I know we had to put our hands on it. You had to put your hands on science in order to understand science.
You can see them growing more comfortable with talking to staff members and advocating for their kids' education and really just understanding the academic language a lot better.
So we want to introduce parents to technology so they become comfortable with how to use it in an educational way. We also want to introduce different ways that they can teach skills at home with their children.
And one thing that I want to do with you is create a professional email.
Through all of the resources that we're providing parents, we're giving them the opportunities to be empowered to be their child's advocate.
One thing that we try to do during parent time is to provide opportunities for parents to learn that they have a voice and learn how to use that voice to make their community stronger. Parent time also is the place where family service learning often is discussed.
This will translate into employability skills, and this is something that they will be able to take into new jobs. Did you organize the jackets? ¿Ya las organizaron? O learning to talk with each other, learning to collaborate, learning to schedule things, organize. Definitely, I think that's the most important part of the project. Even technology skills too. They're building that within service.
Parents also build the support network with one another because they come together and they share strategies and ideas.
It's important for parents to know that they aren't alone. Which segment of the program, of this program, could you use your online tools in? So it's important for the coordinator, whomever is running the parent time session, to give parents that time to be able to exchange ideas and be able to interact with each other.
Okay, when we do pet time, we both do the games together. Like, she'll start off, Mommy, I want to show you how I do this. I'm like, oh.
But it's also very important because it's a motivator for parents to keep coming. They motivate each other.
If a weakness on hers is your strength, I want you to say connect, and we're going to connect you.
It allows our parents to become the best that they can possibly be.
Reasoning and patience with unreasonable child.
Okay, who's patient? Who in here is patient?
Show to their kids, like, look, I'm coming to class 2. This matters to me. Your education is so important that I'm showing up to school 3-4 days a week to learn more about their school and to even improve their own English skills so that they can help them with the homework, right?
Having parents come in and say, well, what can I do at home? And we say, you can read with them for 20 minutes. If the parent takes ownership of that and really makes that connection with the child about the importance of that, that will ultimately trickle into our classrooms and make that difference. And that could be the difference for a child.
All parents can benefit from parent time. It's a way to help them learn to engage with their children, no matter who they are, where they are.
To me, this is like a step out to go home, to take some of the tools home.
So the research is very clear that when parents are engaged in their children's learning, their children are more successful.
Pack time is the heart of a family literacy program. It's a time when children and parents come together to work, play, and learn alongside one another. Typically, this takes place in the children's classrooms for 2 hours per week. Through sharing of lesson plans with adult staff, parents are prepared to visit their children's classrooms with an understanding of what is being taught. Adults prepare during adult education or parent time and also debrief together, sharing their observations, asking questions about what they've seen, and seeking ways to extend learning into the home. Pack time provides a time for parents to practice what they've learned through parent time in a supported setting where teachers serve as models for parent-child interactions. This also helps parents to have a better understanding of their children's curriculum, what is happening in the classroom, and strategies that teachers might use with their children. The ultimate goal of Pack time is helping parents to be able to transfer the skills for use at home. The following video will demonstrate what Pack time looks like in a preschool setting.
Pack time, parent and child together time, is an essential component of our two-generational family service learning and family learning initiatives. It's a time when parents come together with their own children and they work on academic success together. But it might look very different in an elementary classroom than it does in a preschool room.
A successful pack time is going to have a certain sequence. Parents and children are going to be involved, and teachers are going to be supporting throughout the whole sequence.
What are you going to do in the kitchen area with Mom?
The adults are getting a focus while they're in their adult education classroom, and that focus could be related to what the standard is that the children are learning or the subject that the children are learning.
This is a small one, this is a big one. Which one do you think is the middle one?
And then the children are going to be planning in their classroom at the same time.
Oh, you're going to go do Thomas Train with Mama?
Very important for pack time to be child-led. You know, children have a natural curiosity and wonder, and it's great to nourish that.
What color is this bike that he's riding?
Purple.
Purple?
Either parents and children will read together for a few minutes before the beginning of pack time.
What is that?
White.
When they come in, the parent, they read the book to them and just do dialogic reading. You're building more vocabulary as you go. You're adding open-ended questions. You would add, just ask questions. Just don't take the one word.
In some programs, parents and children will just immediately go into an interactive time, probably for about 40 or 45 minutes, where they're playing in the areas of the preschool classroom that the children have chosen. Parents have some guidance, and they may know that, we're watching for how our children use the words small, medium, and large, for example.
Big. If you take a medium, small.
When children are playing with toys or interacting with toys, they're going to help say, is this one smaller than this one, or is this one larger than that one? And giving children more words and more vocabulary.
Here.
There? Let's add it to the train.
It's the parent following what the child wants to do and supporting and scaffolding that learning as they're within that time together. The teachers are going to be in that room at the same time too.
Water.
Is it water?
Generally the adult ed teacher, the early childhood teachers, and maybe the early childhood co-teacher or assistant teacher may also be in the room supporting and helping the children and the parents as they go along.
Dog looks right.
Oftentimes parents and children are going to talk about what they did during cleanup. Sometimes they will come to the circle and the children and the parents will do a little bit of a quick debrief.
You want to tell us what you did? Go ahead.
I made a rainbow ball.
Okay. Can you hold up your picture, please?
Parents may guide that and they say, what did we do today when we were playing in the block area?
How is it not going to fall, Ephraim?
And the children might, the child might answer by, we built the firehouse and we knocked the blocks down.
What did the dad do to the teddy bear?
But the goal here is for children and parents to have a conversation, a turn-taking conversation, and to recall what they just did.
Okay, get ready, Cassidy. Catch the ball. All right, Cassidy.
So it helps to solidify that learning. And then once children and parents are together at a circle time, often the teacher may lead another literacy activity that happens, maybe a storybook or a song. And then they're going to complete that activity by saying, and while you're at home, you can do this. And they may have a transfer home activity that goes then with the child and the parent home.
Now we're going to debrief our pack time experiences.
Talking about what just happened today. How did it go right? How did it go wrong? The adult ed teacher can then support the parents and say, well, maybe next time you could try this.
Big, medium, small. This is big, little, small.
Yeah, you see, it's just common for that age. So the kids, they just need to hear the word more.
Literacy has played a big, big role. Now we see books into our homes. We see books everywhere. The language is really important. I think that's what I see that's really has blossomed. And again, it goes back to the kids that they have built that foundation. What kind of costume did you wear for Halloween?
Butterfly.
Butterfly? What color was your butterfly?
Ladybug.
Pack time is so important, not just because it builds academic success for the child and helps them be successful in school and in life, but it's also very important because it builds the bonds between the parents and the children. The parent and the child have a relationship that maybe they haven't had before, and that will carry forward into the home and the community and all the other activities that they participate in.
In 2013, NCFL added family service learning to the model as a way to connect families more deeply to their communities. Family service learning is a 6-step process focused on the process over product. During family service learning, families begin by investigating their community to determine what works for them and what things that they feel the community might need. Through this investigation, they identify a project that they believe as families they can work together to address. Family service learning is intergenerational, connecting both the adult and child educational objectives to the projects. The focus is on civic engagement and the building of social capital as families work together alongside neighbors, members of the business community, and local government to carry out their projects. Programs in the past have frequently focused on things such as little free libraries to improve access to books. As families have learned through parent time about the importance of reading to children, they frequently identify lack of access as a concern in their community. Programs have also focused on addressing the needs of the homeless as well as food insecurity. A time of reflection following the implementation of a project allows families to consider the impact to their group, to their families, as well as to the community, and to look at the skills that they've had a chance to build and practice through the project. The following video will address how employability skills are impacted by the model.
"51% of adults in our community needed improved basic skills for 21st century employment."
Those are the statistics in Flint, Michigan. But the gap between what potential employees know and what careers require is a grim reality for many employers across the U.S. So what can be done? The National Center for Families Learning developed the 2-generation families learning model that takes direct aim at the skills gap. Parents and children are serving together to address community issues as they learn skills that will advance parents in the workforce and in their goals for economic self-sufficiency. It's called Family Service Learning.
This will translate into employability skills, and this is something that they will be able to take into new jobs. We've seen parents from previous years do that. Learning to talk with each other, learning to collaborate, learning to schedule things, organize. Definitely, I think that's the most important part of the project. Even technology skills too, they're building that within service.
Add to that, Family Service Learning teaches critical thinking, problem solving, leadership, and increased confidence. And you start to see how the NCFL model is a comprehensive approach to address education, unemployment, and family strengthening.
So there was adult education, there was parent and child together time, parent time, early childhood, and then there was vocational training.
Millions of parents and children have participated in NCFL family learning programs. In 2017, half of participating adults got a better job, and 53% upgraded their skills to earn more money.
Good afternoon, how may I help you?
After gaining experience with 40 out of 42 career and technical education skills.
This program changed our lives. It wasn't for this program, now I get my job in JCPenney.
Marginalized families become visible community assets.
And so when we're in the family literacy program, we start recognizing, I have something to contribute here.
It's a powerful thing.
The 2-generation approach, the inclusion of the entire family, leads to family systems that can sustain beyond the program.
Parents and children investigate their own communities to determine which problems they want to solve. In the process, children view their parents as role models who organize, lead, and execute family service learning projects, which range from a safety walk to tackling homelessness in their communities, and projects that make their communities cleaner and better places to raise a family.
We knew she was doing it for us to be better and to live a better life.
positive impacts to their communities and their own lives that can change a family's economic trajectory for future generations, breaking the cycle of poverty.
We wouldn't be living in our own home. My brother probably wouldn't have graduated from college. I wouldn't have been in college right now. We probably would have still been living in a garage somewhere.
But you see these parents engaging with their children in ways with levels of confidence. You realize that these parents have been empowered.
What makes family literacy unique is it takes existing programs such as adults and children's education and brings them together for heightened impact across both generations. This takes a team effort. Adult and children education providers must work together to share responsibility for recruitment for the program, to share lesson plans that inform both adult and child education, to share ideas, for example, parent time topics that early childhood educators or adult educators think families could benefit from, and generally to work together to help families achieve their goals. Through all of our model work, we seek to focus on culturally responsive and inclusive practices. We trust that families can take the lead, and they do this by selecting parent time topics and carrying out family service learning projects. We honor their voices by putting them into action and allowing them to inform and help the program to continuously improve. We encourage program staff to learn about the home and community lives of children and to allow families to share their knowledge and expertise with the program. We seek to position families to lead the work throughout the process and connect families with school, community, and political leaders who should hear their concerns and help them build relationships with those people. Years of research has shown very successful outcomes for parents, children, and the family. We see that when families participate in family literacy programs, 90% will increase their engagement in education. Children with parents who are enrolled in the program are likely to have an attendance rate of 90%. Our 5-year study in Detroit showed that children whose families participated in the program attended school 14 days more per year than those whose parents did not participate in the program. And we found that through family service learning, adults were able to practice 40 of 42 critical employability skills. Looking at parent outcomes, we find stronger parent and child interactions and bonds. We see an increase in the amount of time that parents spend reading to their children or listening to their children read. There's increased support from parents in helping their children with schoolwork, as well as increased employability skills. With children, we're seeing increased reading proficiency as well as the increased daily attendance. And we find that families are engaging more in their children's school through volunteerism and participation in conferences. The following are some questions you might ask regarding adults, children, and your community to determine if family literacy is a good fit for your program. You are already engaging adults in your community in adult education and will want to look to partner with schools who are handling the children's education. Some questions that you might ask about your community might help determine some areas of interest and potential goals and needs of the families that you serve. NCFL has established benchmark quality indicators across all components. However, in identifying strong partners, we find the following conditions to be of critical importance for success. Top-down buy-in from leadership is crucial. Success requires a team approach that requires the regular meeting of staff that serve both adults and children. We're looking for a positive culture that has strong relationships with families, honoring their cultures. Successful programs typically appoint a program site leader who is not the organizational leader, but someone who has the time and capability to work with frontline program staff on implementation. Partnerships with other organizations in the community are essential in bringing resources to families. A willingness to collaborate and integrate the components is essential. and participation in coaching and continuous improvement, often provided by NCFL, supports strong program quality. As you consider whether you might like to move forward with implementing family literacy, here are some compelling reasons that support this approach. I look forward now to our roundtable discussion and the questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Lynn. Joanne's going to pull up the chat so we can see if we've got questions coming in. But thank you for pulling all that together for us. I feel like we just got a little snippet of the conference that just happened. Some of those videos were probably shown at the conference. And there were several folks from Virginia who got to go to the conference this year. And I'm sure they have things to share as well. Some questions that came to me right from the beginning are how critical it is to, well, first of all, how wiggly little children are. You forget when you don't see preschools every day anymore, how challenging it is to teach and be a parent of preschoolers. You know, we forget as our kids are older. But how critical it is to recruit the right teachers for this work, not only the adult ed teacher, but also the child teacher. Can you talk a little bit about the conditions for success when you're recruiting the right staff?
I think what's really key is that openness to the idea of two-generation education. I know for myself and in my beginnings as an elementary teacher, I didn't always consider that my children were coming from families with parents. I saw parents as somebody I needed to see at conference time, or that maybe weren't signing papers that I needed.
It's very honest, and thank you, because we always say, well, of course, we're here, we're the parents, we're here, but of course elementary teachers don't always.
And our programs don't prepare us to work with
That's
families. So we're very focused on the children that walk through our doors. And I think the same thing is true for adult educators. We're focused on those adults walking through the door and their education goals without looking at them more comprehensively. So I think it's that openness to viewing it through the lens of a family's future success, and recognizing how interdependent the children and adults are with respect to that success. So, and again, adult education programs have been around forever. Children's education programs have been around forever. So it's being able to marry them well in a way that makes sense for the families. And I think that also requires an openness in how you view your curriculum and how you allow, for example, your adult ed curriculum to be informed by children's education. So particularly, for example, when we're working with immigrant families who are learning ESL, rather than using a more traditional ESL approach, you might use the children's curriculum. So parents could be learning about cause and effect and basic literacy skills that their children are learning, developing that shared vocabulary so that they're better able to support their children. And we don't have, children going in one path and parents going in another, but we're bringing them together in their education.
That's so important. It struck me again, as it did in the summer, about the value of service learning. And how nicely the definition of service learning overlaps with the definition of workforce prep. All the components are there: employability skills, critical thinking, problem solving, digital, literacy, systems understanding. And so I wondered if you could think with us a minute about starting with service learning as the kind of a wedge into a community to build awareness of the importance of children and parents working together, and as a way to sort of build a recruitment pool of folks. Have you seen that happen? Have you seen that work?
I have, in terms of being a recruitment tool, because as families are working together on projects, a big focus is to be able to connect them to the community, and it's very much family-led. So rather than staff going out and making connections, whether it's getting permissions to use a building or arranging for food donations, parents are handling that. And so they're getting themselves out there into the community, enlisting others to be a part of it, who then are becoming more aware, and many participating then in the program as well. I think one of the things about family service learning that's so powerful is the fact that it is very family-led. And I think so often as educators, we're accustomed to doing things for families instead of helping them to do things for themselves. And so to be able to take a project over the course of weeks or even months and handle all of the planning and the preparation for that builds a great deal of confidence and skills in the family.
So that's very interesting. And workforce preparation is supposed to be happening in all of our classes, at all levels and all program types all over. And it's often woven in. We do hear from teachers that there's some resistance when they say, okay, now we're going to work on job readiness or workforce preparation. So put your academics away, and let's work on something else. And so I think these kind of project-based ideas that are woven into the whole term may be a way to work on that curriculum.
It's a very integrated approach. And I think sometimes families might be resistant to that because maybe their goals don't involve getting a job in the next 6 months. However, through the projects in service learning, families are learning communication skills or organizing resources. And there are things that maybe don't, they certainly lend themselves to employability, but also have applications in other parts of their lives that make it feel a little bit more relevant to them. And of course, being project-based, it gives it the context to make it happen.
Yeah, and so you just hit on a couple key words that I hear is that some programs have populations of English language learners who are not looking for work. And so they have some resistance in the classroom about preparing for work. They're not, they're either retired or they're on spouse visas from military families, or they are stay-at-home moms at this point, or stay-at-home parents. So sneaking in, not really sneaking, all of that work, but casting it as something that's for the community might be a way to approach all of that content.
Yes, and I think that's definitely a population that has traditionally had less interest in the workforce piece, but tend to be highly engaged in the family service learning. And I think as an often very marginalized group, the fact that it allows them to see that they have a voice and to be able to use the voice and to be able to be more connected to their new community and to understand a little bit more about how it works is really key.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's really interesting. Another thing that jumped out for me was the connection that NCFL, through all of your research and years of advocacy, have shown us is that this model and this kind of programming addresses some of the challenges that schools have already identified, right? And it was the attendance issue that really caught my ear.
Yes.
Because I know that chronic absenteeism is a problem that superintendents are really focusing on all across the nation, certainly here in Virginia. You can't be learning the curriculum if you're not at school, right? Chronic absenteeism is a really big challenge. And so when we're starting new programs and we're looking for new partners, it's always good to find out what they're concerned about, right? What are the solutions to this from this new idea that we're talking about? What are solutions to the problems they've already identified? So it sounded like, yeah,
hook for school districts because it is an issue nationwide, and we were very fortunate in Detroit to be able to do a 5-year study with the control group to be able to see that the families who were participating, that their children attended school 14 days per year more. And if you think about that stretched over a child's K through 12 education, we're looking at a year's worth of instruction when we're getting these families in when the children are young and helping them to understand the importance of education. And so as families are participating in the program at their children's school and regularly attending pack time in the classrooms, they see what's happening and they realize the importance of their children being there. They also have the sense of how does it feel when I miss class and how behind I might feel, to be able to realize too that their children have those same feelings in terms of getting behind. But school districts across the country are concerned about this, and so it's an important reason for them to want to engage. They're also looking for parents to be more active in terms of participating in conferences and volunteering in the school and that engagement. And so this really drives family engagement in a big way across the board.
That's great. And reading scores too, reading behaviors and reading scores. And so when these are issues that are before your school boards, I think, tune up your ears and say, these are hooks that I can use in my conversation with superintendents, with principals, with other community members. And I'm sure you'll tell us that the 5-year study is available someplace that we can find an abstract for it or something.
It is on the NCFL website.
Okay, so that we
Collective
can
Impact Brief.
Collective Impact Brief. Okay, so we'll pull together some resources and send them with the archive. Thank you. Joanne, you said there's a
Yeah, we have a question and a follow-up question from Katie Parrish and Leah DaCosta. Katie's question is, do the majority of the programs have cohorts or classes with parents whose children are the same age or grade level? And Leah's follow-up question is, are the parents' classes leveled at all?
Okay. 2 great questions. So with respect to the children being the same age or grade level, yes, if we're focused on preschool and Head Start programs, we're looking at all 3 and 4-year-olds. However, when we're in an elementary school, we usually go across K through 3, sometimes K through 4. So there's some variation there. However, when we're bringing families together, say to reflect on their pack time experience, we might divide them into groups. So all the 2nd grade parents may gather to talk about what they had seen in the 2nd grade classroom and how they might come up with an activity to do at home based on that. Leveling with respect to parent ability, with ESL, we generally don't do that, and that's partly because we use the children's curriculum most often to inform what the adult ed looks like. And so it's kind of a sampling of skills that are happening across the different grade levels. And I think parents see this as, their goals are to learn English, but also to be able to help support their children. And so to the extent that they're able to connect to the curriculum and the vocabulary that their children are using, it's easy to differentiate then within that. And so for parents who have more English, they may be able to take on more projects and activities. When we're looking at GED or other workforce courses, which we're tending to see parents diverging on more different paths. So it could be that you have some parents going to a GED class here in one level, another at another site in a higher level, and then someone who's maybe in a culinary class or a phlebotomy class is a workforce development program. So it is beginning to vary more and more.
Thank you. We have a couple other questions to wrap up our time. Preeti is asking, do the family literacy programs support parents of adolescents in their programs?
We have definitely had some experience where we're working with families with their children of all ages, and have had some work in California focused particularly on teens. What parents tend to tell us about their experience in the program is that it does help them with all of their children. So they may come into it with a focus on their second grader, but through the parent time topics that they request, there might be things about communicating with teens or having Planned Parenthood to come in to talk about how do I talk to my children about puberty or sexuality. So they're bringing in a variety of topics that support parenting across all ages for children.
That's great. And the million-dollar question. What would the cost or timeline for implementation be, and what funding sources are available? And perhaps we can, when we do follow-up here, provide some links or some information about that particular question.
Cost is so variable because there are so many existing resources that you can leverage. So you all have existing adult ed programs. So those are already funded. It can come down to then partnering with then those school programs and already funded. Often the only additional staffing you might need might be a coordinator or a facilitator to run the parent time programs, or potentially childcare if you're looking to be able to address that barrier with families. But I feel like so often we have existing resources. It's just a matter of bringing everything together. Typically the programs operate in the schools, and so occupancy is provided by the schools. As far as being able to fund them, title dollars, both Title I and Title III dollars, and your adult ed dollars then as well, can be used to fund this. And we're actually looking more and more at how to leverage the SNAP EMT funding. Those are dollars available at the federal level that are highly underutilized. Family literacy is written into the federal language for SNAP EMT. It does require that you're working with families who are SNAP eligible and not receiving TANF dollars. So there are some kind of specifications.
SNAP, but not TANF. Okay.
Right, and so that may impact use for some communities. But again, I think so many of the pieces of family literacy are already happening. It's just about pulling it together.
But we do know that co-planning is expensive, and it's an investment worth making. We've learned through our work on IET how important co-planning and co-leading time is to the success. So there is an investment in doing it right, for sure.
So would you say it would take a full year just to get something up and running to the point of where you're actually can say you have a program? I think the timeline piece is an interesting question.
Yes. So, I would say you probably would need a good 6 months of planning, and then that first year really is a pilot year where you're learning and revising and continually working to improve the program and build up any of the components that might be a little bit lacking, and also kind of hitting your stride on what does that communication and co-planning look like. And so again, as you think about partners that are the right ones to bring together, they have to have that willingness to be able to spend the time planning together, and it's so valuable to building the foundation of the program and ensuring that we're not just continuing to operate in these silos, that the adult education and children's education are actually integrated.
Lynn, could you just real quickly as we wrap up touch base on the resource in front of you there?
Yes.
Some information about
So this is our Foundations in Family Literacy and Family Learning manual, which contains a lot of information about each of the individual components, as well as those quality indicator benchmarks that I mentioned, and numerous resources in terms of things like planning a schedule for a program, or how to survey parents for parent time topics and tips for each area. So that's something that we can work with you to arrange for people to receive if you'd like it.
Great. Luke, I see your question there. We are about to pause on the first part of this sharing this morning and go into a smaller roundtable session with a few folks. Luke, we can answer your question during that time. So we really appreciate, Lynn, your coming and putting together this information for us today. As we continue to field questions, we will be in touch with you and get that information. Our Vail and listserv can put information out if we see, a group of folks that are on today have similar questions. We can do some Q&A through that and continue to help people to understand this, and we'll continue to try to draw people together to work on this important endeavor.
Well, I'm happy to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And for those of you that are going to be joining the roundtable, we need about 5 minutes or so to switch gears and switch on to the other links. So we'll see you in a few.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.